what's happening is I'm leaving this airport and I'm going to an airport over here. And I determined that this was a course of 280 degrees. Okay, and I knew that I had wind coming in this direction, and that wind was at an angle of 210 degrees at 20 knots. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm trying to figure out how much do I have to turn this airplane to keep from that wind from blowing me north of my course. Okay, so with those calculations, based on my airspeed, I've decided it needs to be 8 degrees. So if instead of holding a heading of 280, I'm going to hold 272. And it's as simple as that. Now, is that going to be 100%? No. Until they're 100% accurate on the wind forecast, this is not going to be 100% accurate. But it's going to get us in the ballpark. Okay, so we're going to have an idea where to start. Okay. And then the next line down here, and I didn't really talk about how to plot a course, so I kind of skipped over here a little bit. When I measure a straight line on my chart, I am measuring in true. Okay, so when I'm measuring from, okay, like I say, if I'm going from here to here, and it just came out to be 270 degrees, that would be a true course. Now, true across the land. Unfortunately, we have to use a compass as our basis to navigate. We've got other equipment, but it all comes back down to the compass. The compass, our magnetic North Pole, is not perfectly aligned with our true North Pole. Okay, and that difference is what causes that part of that magnetic error. Okay, in this part of the world, magnetic variation is between 5 and 6 degrees. Okay, show you. We've got these red lines from variation. This one's 4.5. I'm just going to go ahead and call it 5 degrees. And when you get enough farther over here, it is going to be a perfect line. There's going to be a 0. And then it gets about a ½ degree here, ½ degree. It just kind of increases as we go west. And like I say, depending on where you are in the world, it's going to be slightly different. When you get in the mountains, sometimes you'll get some very high variations because they have high iron deposits. And so you're going to have these really skewed compass headings. Okay, so understanding that at the top of the world, you've got the magnetic North Pole and the true North Pole, and if you're in a straight line, you have no compensation. But when you're off, anywhere out of alignment with those two, then there's going to be that compass error in there. So we have to take that in consideration. Okay, so we measure it in this true course. Okay, here my example was I measured it in 280. Okay, then I have to subtract or add. Now here, on this one is 4.5 degrees east. East is least. Just remember it. In this part of the world, we're always going to subtract out that magnetic variation. So the 280 minus the 5 degrees, so that would make it 275, is what the compass in a no-wind situation to take me to Albuquerque. Then, if I factor in the wind, and that 8 degrees, I needed to do that, so 275. And again, it's a left turn. When I turn left, the numbers get smaller, so therefore I subtract. When I turn right, the numbers get bigger, therefore I add. So when the dot moves to the left of the center, it's always going to be a subtraction. When the dot moves to the right, it's always going to be add. That make sense? Okay, so 280 minus the 5 minus the 8. So 275 minus 8 makes it 267. So, and it's not going to be perfect. And if you do this on a calculator or your iPad or other technology, it's going to give you down to a half a degree correction. Guess what? You ain't that good. And that's okay, because guess what? The weather people aren't that good either. Okay, when you think about, very few pilots can hold a heading within 1 degree for an extended period of time. Okay, getting it within 5 degrees for extended period of times is tough, but we don't expect you to be perfect. I have to go back and look and see how far off you can be on the, say, on the practical part of a private pilot. You're allowed 2 or 3 miles off course, and you're allowed 100 foot up and down on your altitude. So you've got a certain amount of wiggle room for the check ride. Now, don't ever allow yourself in training to say that's good enough. Because when you're taking a check ride, whether it's with me or whether it's with somebody else, you're probably going to be a little more stressed out than you are when you're with your flight instructor by yourself. Okay, just the fact that it's a check ride, and when we're stressed out, we tend to not perform as well. So if you allow yourself in training to 100 feet up and down is close enough, good enough, a couple miles, it's good enough, then if you double the amount of errors you have in training, and it's typical of what you will do, then there's a good chance you will fail the check ride. Okay, does it have to be that way? Nope. Because if I'm saying, if I can hold my heading and if I can hold my altitude within 50 feet, then if I double that amount of error on that check ride, I'm within 100. If I can hold it within 50 feet, maybe my next goal is to hold it within 20 feet. If I can hold my heading within 10 degrees, let me try to hold it within 5. Let me try to hold it, but I'm tracking across the ground. Now, on the check ride, I'm going to take your GPSs away from you for the first part of it, because I want to know that you can do things old school. Okay, GPSs are very, very reliable, but they are not 100% of the time. I had one gentleman that came to me for a check ride, and it was quite humorous, because he said, my GPS has never failed. I don't believe it will fail. I have full confidence in my GPS. I said, yeah, they're pretty good, but they do fail. And I said, you're going to show me that you can still navigate without it. Maybe you'll be in an airplane that doesn't have a GPS someday. No, I won't do that. Okay, sorry, we're still going to do it without the GPS. If you don't want to do it without the GPS, you can go somewhere else. But we are going to navigate for a few minutes without the GPS. So we did and he did fine. He navigated without his GPS. And we did the time speed. He started his timer, and he worked his E6B. And he got done with his E6B, and he shoved it up there on the dash. And then we did a diversion. We're going to another airport. And I said, okay, you've given me a general direction to your next airport. And I said, now you may turn on your GPS. And he turned his GPS on, and it said, no signal. And he looked at me, and he said, what did you do? I didn't touch your GPS. It's never done this before. I didn't touch your GPS. You had it. I didn't touch your GPS. And I said, you're the one that said it couldn't fail. What do I know? And so he went ahead, and it's all going good. And he gets to his destination without, basically without his GPS. And I said, okay, that's good. Let's move on. We're going to do the hood work. And he said, well, I don't need my stuff anymore. And I said, no, we're done with that. And so he takes his E6B, and it was a metal one, down to put it back in his case. And all of a sudden, his GPS was working. There was a little antenna up here, and he had slid this over the top of his GPS antenna.
Oh my gosh.
He induced his own failure. I couldn't have planned it. I wouldn't have even done it to him, but it was nice that he did it to himself, because GPSs can be made to fail.
And he might not have